Ladies and gentlemen, today I want to speak about something often misunderstood, yet deeply powerful: the strength in a woman's vulnerability. For too long, vulnerability has been seen as a weakness, something to be hidden or silenced. But I'm here to tell you today, vulnerability is not the absence of strength. It is the essence of it. When a woman allows herself to be vulnerable, she steps into her truest power. Let me share with you 4 key truths about this strength. Number 1. Vulnerability is courage in action. Vulnerability is often misunderstood. In a world that praises toughness, independence, and emotional armor, vulnerability can feel like exposure, like standing unguarded in a storm. But what many fail to realize is that vulnerability is not weakness. It's the most courageous act a person can choose, especially for women, whose strength is too often measured by how much they can endure in silence. Vulnerability is a radical and powerful declaration of self, worth, and bravery. To be vulnerable is to risk being seen. It's to let others into the unpolished parts of ourselves, the wounds that haven't fully healed, the dreams that feel fragile, the fears we try to keep tucked away. It's choosing to show up as our full, authentic selves in a world that constantly tells us to shrink, to smile even when we're breaking, to be agreeable, composed, and unshakable. But true courage doesn't lie in pretending we're unaffected. It lies in the willingness to stand in our truth, to say, "This is me, this is what I feel, this is what I need." For a woman to allow herself to be vulnerable is no small thing. From a young age, many women are taught to hide their pain, to suppress their anger, to care for others before themselves. Tears are seen as a sign of weakness. Emotions are labeled as overreactions. And yet, when a woman breaks through those expectations and shows her raw humanity, it is an act of resistance. It takes immense strength to choose openness over protection, to speak truth in a world that might not understand or accept it. Vulnerability means speaking even when your voice shakes. It means raising your hand when you're unsure, saying "I don't know" without shame, and admitting "I need help" without guilt. It means saying "I love you" first, or "I'm sorry" when pride is screaming not to. It means facing failure, heartbreak, and rejection with your heart still open. That's not cowardice. That's bravery in its purest form, because courage isn't the absence of fear. It's moving forward despite it. Think about the moments in life when you felt most alive. The times you took a chance, said what needed to be said, or dared to hope. Chances are, those moments required vulnerability. There's a special kind of strength that rises when we allow ourselves to be seen, not for who we think the world wants us to be, but for who we truly are. It is in those moments that we feel most free. Vulnerability cracks us open in the best possible way. It allows light to enter and light to escape. It connects us more deeply to others and to ourselves. When a woman embraces vulnerability, she gives herself permission to be human. She acknowledges that she is not a machine built only to perform or produce. She is not defined by her ability to endure or to appear strong. She is allowed to feel, to break, to heal, and to rise. That acknowledgement is itself a revolution. And it inspires others, because vulnerability is contagious in the most beautiful way. When one person chooses to show up fully, it gives others the courage to do the same. It creates a ripple effect of honesty, connection, and healing. Vulnerability also allows us to connect more deeply to purpose. When we peel back the layers of fear and shame, we begin to hear our inner voice more clearly. We can no longer hide behind shoulds or expectations. Instead, we begin to ask, what matters to me? What do I really want? Who am I when I'm not trying to please or prove? These questions may feel uncomfortable at first, but they are the beginning of real transformation. They are the soil from which courage grows. And yes, vulnerability can be painful. It can open us up to rejection, misunderstanding, and judgment. Not everyone will honor your truth. Not everyone will handle your heart with care. But hiding it away doesn't protect you. It only disconnects you from the fullness of life. Pain is a part of the human experience, but so is joy, love, and connection. When you shut yourself off from one, you inevitably close yourself off from the others. Choosing vulnerability is choosing to live all the way. It's saying, "I'm not here to survive. I'm here to feel, to connect, to grow." It's about releasing the need to be perfect and embracing the beauty of being real. Perfection is exhausting and unattainable, but authenticity, that's powerful. That's where healing begins. That's where relationships deepen. That's where impact happens. Imagine a world where more women allowed themselves to be vulnerable, where saying, "I'm struggling," wasn't met with shame but with support, where emotions weren't seen as liabilities but as strengths, where softness wasn't a flaw but a superpower. In such a world, leadership would look different. Relationships would feel different. Our entire culture would shift toward compassion, empathy, and truth. We must remember that vulnerability is not about oversharing or seeking validation. It's not about being emotionally reckless. It's about being real, being honest, and being brave enough to live with your heart open. It's the courage to face yourself and the world with honesty and integrity. It's the power to say, "This is me, and I am enough." In every woman is a well of strength that runs deeper than the world can see. But that strength doesn't always look like pushing through or staying silent. Sometimes it looks like falling apart, then choosing to rebuild. Sometimes it looks like asking for help, speaking the truth, or walking away from what no longer serves you. Sometimes it looks like tears. Sometimes it looks like saying no, but always, always, it looks like courage. So let this be a reminder to every woman. Your vulnerability is your strength. Do not apologize for your feelings. Do not shrink yourself to fit into spaces that ask you to be less than whole. Be soft, be fierce, be both. Be exactly who you are in all your complexity and grace. Because when you dare to live vulnerably, you become unstoppable. Not because you're unbreakable, but because you're real. And there is nothing stronger than that. Number 2, it creates deep, meaningful connections. In a world that often values appearances over authenticity, it can feel safer to put up walls than to let others truly see who we are. We're taught to be strong, to keep our emotions in check, and to only show the parts of ourselves that are polished and presentable. But real connection, true soul-level connection, can't be built on masks. It's only when we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, to be seen in our raw and honest truth, that deep, meaningful relationships are formed. Vulnerability is the bridge that connects one heart to another. It's not about being weak or oversharing. It's about being real. When someone opens up and shares their fears, their struggles, or their deepest hopes, it creates space for others to do the same. It breaks down barriers. It invites trust. It allows two people to meet not on the surface, but at the core of who they are. And that is where true connection begins. When a woman allows herself to be vulnerable, she sends a silent message. It's safe to be yourself with me. That message is powerful. It says that perfection is not required here, that masks can come off, that flaws are not something to be judged, but something to be embraced. This kind of openness creates a depth in relationships that surface-level interactions could never achieve. It leads to friendships that last, partnerships that thrive, and communities that support one another through life's most difficult storms. Think about the people you feel closest to, the ones you trust with your truths. Chances are those are the people who have seen you at your best and your worst. They're the ones you didn't have to pretend around. They're the ones who stayed when things got messy. That kind of relationship is only possible when both people are willing to be real with one another. Vulnerability creates a sacred space where mutual understanding can grow. Too often, we wear emotional armor to protect ourselves from pain. And while that armor might keep us from getting hurt, it also keeps us from truly connecting. You can't bond with someone through a wall. You can't love fully or be loved fully if parts of you are hidden away. Vulnerability says, "This is all of me, not just the highlights, but the hard stuff too." And when that kind of honesty is met with empathy and acceptance, it builds something beautiful. There is unmatched strength in saying, "I don't have it all together," and still choosing to show up. That level of honesty pulls people closer. It makes them feel seen, not just as who they're pretending to be, but as who they truly are. And when someone feels truly seen, they feel safe. That safety allows for growth. It allows for healing. It allows for relationships to become anchors in a chaotic world. Vulnerability also deepens romantic relationships in profound ways. Love that is built only on attraction or shared interests can falter when life gets hard, but love that is built on mutual vulnerability is resilient. It has depth. When both partners feel free to express their fears, dreams, insecurities, and needs, the relationship becomes a space of trust and mutual care. It stops being about impressing one another and becomes about supporting one another through every season of life. Even in friendships, vulnerability is the key to closeness. When you open up to a friend about what you're truly going through, you create space for them to open up as well. Suddenly, the conversation isn't about surface-level things. It's about real life. And in that exchange, friendship is transformed into sisterhood, into a bond that doesn't break with time or distance, into something you can rely on. Vulnerability is also powerful in leadership and mentorship. When a woman in a leadership position is willing to admit her mistakes, to ask for feedback, or to say, "I don't know, but I'm willing to learn," she gains more respect, not less. She shows her team that imperfection is human and that growth is always possible. She models authenticity, which empowers others to lead with integrity too. That kind of leadership doesn't just inspire, it transforms cultures, families, and workplaces. There is also a deeper connection we form with ourselves through vulnerability. When we stop running from our emotions and start acknowledging them, we begin to understand who we really are. We start healing wounds we've been avoiding. We begin to honor our truth, even when it's uncomfortable. And that self-connection is the foundation for connecting with others. Because the more at peace you are with yourself, the more capable you are of offering real love, real friendship, and real presence to others. Vulnerability reminds us that we are not alone. When we share our pain, we often discover that others have been through similar things. We realize that our struggles are not signs of failure but part of being human. And that realization connects us on a universal level. It says, "I've been there too." And those 4 words can be the beginning of someone's healing. They can bring comfort, hope, and the courage to keep going. There is something profoundly freeing about not having to pretend, to sit across from someone and tell the truth about how you're really doing, to say, "I'm hurting," or "I'm scared," and have someone respond with compassion instead of judgment. That kind of connection can't be forced or faked. It's born from vulnerability, and it's the kind of connection that changes lives. So many of the world's problems stem from disconnection. Loneliness, division, fear. These things thrive when people stay guarded. But the moment someone decides to speak their truth, it opens a door to empathy, to unity, to love. Vulnerability is that door, and every time we choose to walk through it, we bring light into places that were once dark. To live a life of deep connection is to live a life of vulnerability. It's not always easy. It requires courage, honesty, and a willingness to be uncomfortable, but the reward is rich. It's relationships that are rooted in truth. It's community that uplifts instead of competes. It's love that doesn't demand perfection, only presence. So let this be your reminder. Vulnerability is not your weakness. It's your power. It's what allows others to know you, support you, and love you for who you really are. It's what turns conversations into communion, strangers into friends, moments into memories. And when you choose to be vulnerable, you give others the gift of your truth. That gift has the power to heal, to inspire, and to connect in the deepest, most beautiful ways. Number 3, vulnerability fuels growth and transformation. Vulnerability is often seen as something to avoid, a state of being too open, too exposed, too emotional. But if we look deeper, we find that vulnerability is not the enemy of strength. In fact, it is the very foundation of growth and transformation. When we are vulnerable, we step outside of our comfort zones and face life with honesty. We open ourselves up to uncertainty, to discomfort, and even to pain, but in doing so, we create space for change. And change is where transformation begins. Growth never happens in the safety of what we already know. It happens when we dare to ask questions, to admit we don't have all the answers, and to allow ourselves to be shaped by experience. Vulnerability is what pushes us into those moments. It's what makes us brave enough to start over, to try something new, or to leave something behind. It requires us to be honest about where we are and courageous enough to believe that where we're going can be better. Transformation is not a straight path. It's often messy, confusing, and deeply uncomfortable, but it is in those moments, when we feel the most uncertain, when we are stripped of our usual defenses, that we grow the most. Vulnerability allows us to sit in that space of not yet healed, not yet certain, not yet strong, but willing to face the unknown, willing to move forward anyway, willing to learn. When we are vulnerable, we begin to see ourselves more clearly. We stop pretending. We stop hiding behind roles or expectations. And in that raw honesty, we start to uncover parts of ourselves we didn't know were there. We begin to recognize our patterns, our wounds, and our strengths. We become more aware of what drives us and what holds us back. This self-awareness is not always comfortable, but it is essential. You cannot change what you do not acknowledge. And acknowledgement begins with vulnerability. Vulnerability also teaches us resilience. When we allow ourselves to feel pain, we begin to understand that we can survive it. We stop fearing our emotions and start embracing them as messengers. Grief tells us what we love. Fear shows us where we need courage. Anger points to injustice. When we listen instead of shutting down, we gain wisdom, and that wisdom shapes us. It makes us stronger, more grounded, more compassionate. Every time we move through vulnerability rather than run from it, we prove to ourselves that we are capable of growth. Some of the most powerful transformations in life come from moments of surrender. When we let go of control, when we admit that we're struggling, when we stop pretending everything is fine, we open ourselves up to support, to healing, and to change. Vulnerability allows us to receive. And receiving help, love, feedback, forgiveness is often the turning point in our journey. We were never meant to do life alone, but we can't be helped if we don't admit we need it. Vulnerability creates the space for connection, and connection creates the conditions for transformation. True growth also requires that we risk failure. Whether we're chasing a dream, building a relationship, or trying to break an old habit, we will fall short at times. We will make mistakes. We will get hurt. But vulnerability is what allows us to keep going. It says, I'm willing to try even if I don't know how it will turn out. It says, I believe this is worth it even if I might fail. And it is in that willingness that we grow. We build courage. We build endurance. We build strength. Vulnerability teaches us to let go of perfection. So many of us wait to feel ready before we begin something new. We wait until we feel confident, until we're sure we won't mess up, until the timing is perfect. But that moment rarely comes, and in the waiting, we miss opportunities to grow. Vulnerability asks us to begin anyway, to speak before we're certain, to show up while we're still learning, to believe that growth is not about getting it right every time. It's about being willing to evolve. This kind of transformation isn't always visible. Sometimes it happens quietly, behind the scenes, in the privacy of our hearts. It happens when we forgive ourselves, when we stop chasing approval, when we finally admit that something needs to change. These are the invisible victories that reshape us from the inside out, and they all begin with vulnerability, with the choice to be honest, even when it's hard. Vulnerability also deepens our empathy. When we've allowed ourselves to sit with pain, we become more understanding of others in theirs. We stop judging and start relating. We listen more, we care more. We become less reactive and more reflective. Transformation isn't just about becoming more successful. It's about becoming more human, more open, more present. Vulnerability softens us in the best way. It makes us kind without making us weak. It makes us wise without making us cold. It is through vulnerability that we discover our values. When life strips away our plans or breaks our routines, we are forced to ask what really matters. What do I believe in? What do I stand for? Who do I want to be? These questions are born in vulnerable moments, and the answers guide our transformation. They become the compass for how we live, lead, and love moving forward. Vulnerability also invites creativity. When we are willing to risk being seen, we unlock the freedom to express ourselves fully. Whether through art, writing, speaking, or simply living authentically, creativity requires risk. It requires being misunderstood. It requires being judged. But vulnerability says, create anyway. And it is through that expression that we not only grow, we inspire others to grow too. When we embrace vulnerability, we stop running from life and start engaging with it. We stop fearing discomfort and start welcoming it as a teacher. We begin to understand that every challenge is an opportunity, every loss a lesson, every wound a doorway to healing. Vulnerability doesn't make transformation easy. It makes it possible. It gives us access to the deeper layers of life, to the beauty behind the struggle, to the strength behind the sorrow. So let us stop hiding from vulnerability. Let us stop believing the lie that we have to have it all together. Let us choose to show up, to speak up, and to feel deeply. Let us remember that we grow not in spite of our vulnerability, but because of it. And let that truth transform the way we live, the way we love, and the way we rise. Number 4, it sets a new standard for strength for generations. Strength has been defined by silence, toughness, and the ability to endure without complaint. Especially for women, the world has often painted strength as being unshakable, always in control, always composed, and never needing help. But this outdated version of strength is not only unrealistic, it's deeply damaging. It forces people, particularly women, to suppress their emotions, hide their pain, and carry their burdens alone. But now, a new definition is rising. One rooted in truth, one rooted in vulnerability. Because when a woman chooses to be vulnerable, she isn't displaying weakness. She is setting a new standard for what it truly means to be strong. This new kind of strength isn't loud or aggressive. It doesn't wear armor or push others away. It doesn't demand perfection or hide behind a facade. Instead, it is honest, it is raw, it is human. It's the kind of strength that stands up and says, I'm struggling, but I'm still here. It's the strength that admits, I don't have all the answers, but I'm willing to keep going. Vulnerability shifts the focus from appearing strong to being real, and that shift is powerful. Real strength is not the absence of emotion, it is the courage to feel. It is the willingness to sit with pain, to face fears, and to speak truth even when it's uncomfortable. A woman who allows herself to be vulnerable is rewriting the rules. She's saying that crying is not a sign of weakness, that asking for support does not make you less, that embracing your softness does not take away your power, it amplifies it. She's not hiding behind a mask. She's choosing to show up exactly as she is, and in doing so, she becomes a force of quiet, steady resilience. When a woman chooses vulnerability, she breaks the mold society has tried to force her into. She challenges the outdated belief that women must always be composed, nurturing, and selfless at the cost of their own well-being. She sets a new example, one that says it's okay to take up space, to voice your needs, to acknowledge your limits, that it's okay to rest, that it's okay to feel overwhelmed, that true strength is found not in pretending to be invincible, but in embracing your full humanity. This new standard of strength is not just about the individual woman, it impacts everyone around her. When a woman shows up authentically, she gives others permission to do the same. Her vulnerability becomes an invitation. It says you don't have to pretend anymore. In friendships, it deepens connection. In families, it breaks generational cycles of silence. In workplaces, it fosters healthier environments where people are seen as human, not just productive. There's something transformative about seeing a woman lead from a place of authenticity. Whether she's a mother, a manager, an artist, or a student, when she allows herself to be vulnerable, she teaches those around her that leadership isn't about being flawless. It's about being honest, compassionate, and real. She becomes a role model not because she's perfect, but because she's brave enough to show up as herself. This new strength also makes space for healing. For too long, women have been told to just keep going, to stay strong, no matter what. But some wounds can't be healed by pushing through them. They need to be acknowledged, felt, and expressed. Vulnerability creates that space. It says, you don't have to carry this alone. It opens the door to support, to therapy, to community. And healing in itself is an act of strength. The beauty of this new standard is that it honors the full spectrum of what it means to be a woman. It doesn't box her into a role or an image. It says she can be strong and soft, independent and supported, resilient and emotional, all at the same time. She doesn't have to choose between being seen as capable and being seen as human. She is both. She is whole. Vulnerability also builds inner strength. When a woman faces her fears instead of avoiding them, she becomes more grounded. When she speaks up about her needs, she becomes more empowered. When she shares her story, she not only lightens her own load, she inspires others to find their voice too. This kind of strength grows from the inside out. It's not dependent on how others perceive her. It comes from knowing who she is and being unapologetic about it. This new standard of strength is not loud or flashy. It doesn't always make headlines. Sometimes it looks like a woman getting out of bed when she feels like giving up. Sometimes it looks like setting a boundary or walking away from something that's hurting her or choosing rest over hustle. Sometimes it's found in the quiet moments of honesty, the kind you don't always see but you can feel. The kind of moments that say, I'm not okay, but I'm still choosing to show up. As more women embrace vulnerability as strength, the ripple effects are profound. Daughters learn that they don't have to be perfect to be worthy. Partners learn that emotional honesty is not a threat but a gift. Communities grow stronger because people are no longer pretending. They're showing up with their real stories, their real struggles, their real hearts. And in that realness, there is unity, there is empathy, there is strength. We live in a world that desperately needs this new kind of strength. One that doesn't shame emotions but embraces them. One that doesn't equate silence with power but sees truth as the ultimate form of courage. A world where women can be leaders, mothers, creators, and healers without having to hide parts of themselves to fit in. Vulnerability is not a weakness to overcome. It's a strength to lean into. It's a declaration that says, I will not let fear or shame silence me. It's the choice to love deeply, to speak honestly, to show up fully. It's the act of being human in a world that tries to make you a machine, and that, in itself, is revolutionary. So let us celebrate the women who cry and keep going. The women who speak even when their voice trembles. The women who ask for help, not because they're weak, but because they're wise enough to know they don't have to do it alone. These women are not just strong, they are setting a new standard for strength. One that is honest, one that is healing, one that is deeply, beautifully real. So to every woman listening today, do not hide your heart. Don't let the world shame your softness. Your vulnerability is not your burden. It's your badge of honor. It's the doorway to deeper love, louder truth, and unstoppable strength. Stand in it, speak from it, own it, because the world doesn't need more perfection. It needs more real. And there is nothing more real, more powerful, or more beautiful than a woman who chooses to live and lead from her heart. God bless you.